Sometimes we just have unfinished projects that need to get finished, and that's what we're tackling in this video. Hey there, my name is Yami. I am your Latina next door. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I love sharing high-end home decor and DIY inspiration on a budget. If you love videos like that, please make sure to give this one a thumbs up and subscribe so that you too can join a part of the familia. Today's video is going to be a little different. I have one huge project that I know you guys are waiting to see what I've done with. I've got something I want to change out in the kitchen. I am also tackling my spice cabinet and sharing some products that might be of interest to you all. All right, let's get started. If you recall a few videos ago, I shared a couple of furniture transformations, and this secretary that I had previously purchased was supposed to make it into that video. However, I encountered some problems with the paint that I was given to use on this piece. I'll be talking more about that in a minute because this furniture piece has definitely given me a run for its money. Now, when I first got it, I knew I did not want the doors, so the first thing I did was remove them. I removed them, but I did keep them in case I ended up changing my mind in the future. And this is what the piece looked like. And what I did was I got some wood filler and filled in all of the little holes that you see from those doors. Once the wood filler was dry, I came in with some fine grit sanding paper and I sanded everything down to make it smooth. And along came the issues. As I shared with you guys in the previous video, the paint that I was given to test out on this piece was supposed to be a one and done deal. I didn't have to seal it. However, as you can see here, this paint was experiencing a ton of bleed through on this piece. Now, I have previously done furniture before and I have used an oil-based primer in order to seal anything and prevent bleed through, but since this paint was supposed to be a all-in-one paint and primer, that is why I chose to test it out on this piece of furniture. But I did go back with my trusty cover stain primer that's oil-based, and I gave everything one full coat in order to seal it and prep it for the final paint job. And it worked just fine. I'm not sure what happened to the footage of me actually painting it with the primer, but here you see me sanding the primer down and making sure that everything is nice and smooth in order to apply the paint that I did end up choosing for this piece. I used the large orbital sander in all of the large flat areas of the desk, and then I came back in with a little bit of paper and did all of the smaller edges and corners and crevices and areas by hand. As you can see, I only painted the face of the drawers and not the edges because the space where the drawers slide into, they were so thin and narrow that if I would have added paint on all of the four edges, my drawers would eventually get stuck or the paint would end up rubbing off as I would open them and close them. And then came the next big disaster. I decided to try this Wagner home decor spray gun that's supposed to be for cabinets and furniture, and I thought I'd give it a try because it also says it works great with chalk paint, and I wanted to see if maybe this was something that could help me paint pieces faster. And so I ended up going with a Glidden paint that's in semi-gloss, and it's a Premier interior paint. I've used it before and it works pretty well on furniture. We did end up watering down the paint just a little bit so it could flow better through the machine. And frankly, I was really hopeful, and from your view here on the camera, it looks like it's doing really nice coverage. But as I was going through, the paint was coming out very splotchy and there was a lot of uneven surface. And even though, again, you don't see it, I was not happy with how it turned out. So at this point, I just let it dry and then I focused my efforts on doing something else for the secretary. I had a little bit of beadboard from when I redid my kitchen, and I wanted to use it up, not let it go to waste, because I do think it's really pretty. So I asked the hubby, the Latino engineer, to help me out. So we got to measuring and cutting the beadboard so that it would fit within the 3 shelves on the secretary. Now the trick here was to get all of the vertical beadboard lines to match up between the shelves. And this was a little tricky because we didn't have that much beadboard left. So we had to be as precise as possible. So I brought the beadboards in, and using some liquid nails, I adhered them to the back portion of the shelf area, as you see here. I came back in with the nail gun in order to hold the boards in place while the glue dried. Then I came in with some white caulk and I addressed all of the seams to make sure that it looked nice and seamless, like it had always been that way. I did sand the secretary in all of the areas that it was very splotchy from the spray gun, and I decided to go ahead and just roll and use a brush for the rest of the secretary. That way I can just finish this with a second coat of paint. For the beadboard, I went with the same exact paint that I use for all of my trim and windows and baseboards in my home. And I never really tape any of my furniture pieces when I'm painting them, unless an area specifically does not need to be painted at all. But I find then when you use a nice high-end angled sash brush, you can cut lines very easily by yourself without using any tape. Then it was time to address the cabinet pulls. Now, I didn't want to replace them necessarily because I just wanted this to be the most cost-effective way of transforming this piece, and I've also had many issues with it, so I wanted to keep it simple. I did go out and look for pieces to add on and replace these knobs. However, I couldn't find anything that I liked or that would fit, so I thought I would use a nice black so that it could match some of my other furniture in my home. Of course, when I began to install them, I began noticing that I did not like the stark contrast between the drawer color and the pull color. And you can see here the stark contrast between all of the black and all of the lighter grayish color that I had chosen for the secretary. Plus the center little decorative pieces, I kept them on and painted over them, and I didn't like the way they kind of looked next to each other. So I went back out, went to Home Depot, found me some Rust-Oleum hammered paint in this color, and began spray painting them all over again. This time when I began adding them back on to the piece, I noticed a huge difference, and much to my relief, it looks so much better. At this point, I could not take another disappointment. Then after so much battling with this piece, I was finally able to set it up in my living room and began decorating it. And finally, this is how it turned out. And if you're wondering, I did paint the inside of the desk area of the secretary, but I have to still remove some of the paint on the hardware, as you can see right there, that got onto it while I was painting. But other than that, it is finished. So there's another thing that I've been wanting to tackle lately, and it's been my spice cabinet. My spice cabinet is overflowing with spices, and I had previously done a makeover of all my spices and stuff in the previous house, but ever since then I've been using way more spices, and the containers that I had were no longer being sold. So I decided to go ahead and order some new ones, and I found these beautiful baby mason jars is what I call them. So I began by removing all of the old spice jars that I had. I had already ran all of the mini mason jars through the wash and made sure they were thoroughly dry before I started transferring over all of the spices. Now what I love about these baby mason jar spice jars is that they come with all of these labels already done for you, as well as these blank ones in case there's a spice that you use that's probably not listed on here, but I'm telling you, I think they have absolutely every spice in the world. And they fit perfectly on the top lid, and here's the marker that comes with it in case you do have to label it. And it also comes with this little collapsible funnel that you can use to transfer your spices from larger containers. This kit made it so easy for me to do this, especially since the labels were already done. And the quality of everything was great too. So I'll list it in the description box below if you guys want to check it out, because it is very affordable, and these are high quality little spice jars. So I absolutely love these. The package that I bought was the 24 to a pack, and they end up being a little over $1 a piece, which I think is definitely a great bargain. And I was able to consolidate a lot of the things that I had and take some of the spices that didn't have any containers from these little bins and put them where I can easily access them. Now the next thing that I wanted to tackle was the little skirt underneath my kitchen sink, as well as the little valance that I had above it. I had created some brand new ones after I did my kitchen makeover. However, it was time to change things up, and I wanted to try some new pattern fabric. If you recall, the little skirt was made out of some panels that I had from my previous home that I repurposed for under the sink. And so there was 3 panels. Now I'm just going to make 2. So I'm going to make sure to cut my fabric in the middle so that I have 2 larger panels. And these have been heavily used. As you can see, there are some stains on these little panels. I have washed them. They're not coming out. If you have any stain removal ideas, please send them my way. The good thing about this is that I already had a pattern to go off of, so all I had to do was lay the fabric down and make my cuts accordingly. These are really simple to sew because they're all straight stitching. I do 3 regular hems on 3 sides, and then I do 1 single hem, and then I do it back on over itself again in a much larger size so I can create the loop where the rod goes for the little curtain rods. And that was it for this little refresh that I wanted to do over in my kitchen sink area. Well, that's it for today's video. I hope you liked it. If you did, please make sure to give this video a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to continue seeing videos like this. Really quick, I am going to have a bonus video at the end of this month for you guys, so stay tuned for that. And I will see you next week with more home decor and DIY content. Until then, adios!